I asked the AI, hey, I have this problem. How can I approach it? It told me, oh, here's how you can approach it. And then I said, okay, these are the specific classes that I have in my Webflow account. Write the code to work. And then it gave me the code and it worked like the first try.
Kabarza, my friend, what is up? Good to see you.
Hello, hello. Good to be here. Good to see you again.
Today I'm recording now the 4th edition of the Webflow masterclass. Today I finished and I remembered that it was a little bit over a year ago when we finished recording together, edition number 3. Dude, so much had happened over the last year.
True.
And we haven't talked enough. So I'm excited to catch up and hear what you've been up to.
Excited to see the new edition. How was it? How was recording and basically trying to
Very tiring.
Yeah.
I don't know when this video comes out. I think this video comes out in the future where we can already say
True.
that there has been a Webflow conference. It's in the past. And Webflow launched a bunch of new things that I got early access to just so that I can record this course. And so it was like it was a crazy experience.
Super cool.
I wasn't allowed to show anybody like what I'm working on, signed NDAs, all that kind of stuff. But
I see. I could sense something on Twitter. You were not active on Twitter previously, but then you were like asking Webflow questions and like very interesting ones. And I was like, okay, he is doing something with Webflow. I could like ask.
Yeah, I'm recording the
but
new
I
course.
never asked. Yeah, super cool.
So in the new course, I broke it down into kind of like beginner, intermediate, advanced. And in the advanced parts, so some parts were like, I'm not sure. Let me check how the experts actually go ahead and do it. I was asking questions sometimes, and got really great feedback from the community on Twitter.
Super cool. Well, as Webflow is growing so much and the community is growing, it's so difficult to stay sharp and be good at everything Webflow. There is no such a thing. Yeah.
The point is exactly. So previously, before we started working on this course, we had an idea of just creating advanced Webflow course. And then as I started to think deeply about it, I was like, what is an advanced Webflow course? Because you can be really advanced in animations, and then you can be really advanced in, all kinds of code extensions and doing custom code work. And then you can be doing stuff with Wiz and web apps. I mean, there's a lot of directions where you can dive really deep, and you can't really master all of them because each one of them is like super deep. And so I've tried to create kind of like an overarching advanced skills, but then of course, if you want to go deep in each one of those, each one of them is kind of like probably a separate
super
course.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, the main thing is especially for newcomers and, people who are in less than, intermediate level. So beginner towards intermediate, like learning the core concepts and problem solving and like the way to think about it. I think these are like the most interesting parts. I personally, when I bought the first version of the Webflow masterclass from you, I still remember it. I was learning at Webflow from the Webflow University myself, but I was like, I need to understand how a pro thinks about solving the problems. And what was really interesting to me in the course was not like the first, video saying, here how you can make this box. It was more like, here we have this like layout that is rather complex. So how can we break it down to smaller chunks, and then how can we solve it? And it's really interesting, as you also mentioned, as Webflow is growing so much, you can do increasingly more things with it, and it's just difficult to master everything. But if you nail the fundamentals, then I guess it's much easier to do the rest.
I also think, honestly, like the rate of change is now so fast. I think a lot of things that are available today, like for example, all of the libraries and all of the UI kits and stuff like that, they were not available maybe even a year ago or something like this. They were not available. And so, for example, today, as I was rethinking this course, I was like, why would somebody start from scratch when you've got like Reloom and people are doing like crazy things, like amazing things using Reloom? And why would you build that from scratch? There's no reason. And so, and I was thinking, you know, previously I was in the first Webflow masterclass, I created this very basic kind of like style guide. And then that was kind of like a bonus, like buy the course and then get this bonus. Now there's like gazillion style guides out there. Most of them are more powerful and encompassing than what I've created. And so I was like, what's the purpose of this? Like the landscape has changed and we need to rethink everything. So the way really that I structured it this time is I did for beginners, here's actually just how do you work with a template? Because if there's a good template, why would you build from scratch? And then the intermediate, here's how you can use Reloom and take a design from Figma and completely rebuild it and customize it using Reloom. And in the advanced, it's like, okay, if you've got something really crazy and really custom, you can't do it with Reloom. Now you have to think from scratch. Now you have to build maybe your own style guide and think about everything. And let's think about that together. So
super interesting.
Yeah, that's how I was thinking.
You know, after the masterclass we recorded together last year, I recorded a Webflow masterclass in Persian, in Farsi, a different language.
Yeah, you told me.
And for that, I also started to rethink, like, okay, I did this with Ron, so how can I think about making this better without, you know, making it too complex? Thinking about how you were looking at the problems and trying to be as simple as possible with like solutions to not overwhelm students. So I ended up like cranking the, you know, the level just a little bit up, but without making it too complex. But I added one new chapter, which I think is similar probably to your approach. I built basically like a 5-6 page project. It's not like a website, it's like a project with 6 different pages, and in each page I'm tackling a set of concepts, but these are like very core concepts. We had this in the Webflow masterclass. Actually, you did this, and that was like the ideation where it came from, but I just created this and then I used it for basically explaining everything, like from what's a section to like here how you can add shadows and like the details of the styles. And what I ended up recording as the overview of that basically chapter, it's a full chapter. The overview is go watch these videos, but don't get stuck. The idea is to just familiarize yourself with these concepts that, hey, you can do this, but you don't need to really like understand it fully in order to move forward. And then you start building a real project, and then you go back, basically like a library. That's for beginners, and then intermediate people can jump into building the real project. But now comes
how did the course go? Did you get
positive feedback a lot.
Were you selling this or giving it away for free?
I did it with a different with another school, and yeah, we're selling it. They are selling it, and I'm actually I'm not getting a lot from it. For multiple times I thought about I would actually rather just do the other things I'm doing and put this course completely online on YouTube, because it's really valuable. It's like Webflow Masterclass 3. It's that comprehensive, but we have like 300, probably more than 300 students, and the school is continuing selling it, but I'm shifting away my focus from it to not be only on that, because honestly, I got bored. I was like, I'm a competitive person, and I was like, I don't see like Reloom as competitors or like FinSuite. I tend to think that way, but I learned this from you. I remember like early talks when I was still a student, like how we were seeing them as basically colleagues. But nonetheless, I'm like competitive in the sense of learning and staying sharp and like being able to do more in that sense. And doing that Persian course, I got bored because I didn't want to learn a bunch of new things and scale and like learn and just be the king there or whatever, but for a very sub community, even though
Yeah, because it's a small
they're
market. Or
very deserving. They are really thirsty to learn. The by far the most engaging community I've seen, like everywhere, like on social, it's crazy. It's nuts actually. It's how engaging and interested they are. It's partially because of the political landscape there, and a lot of young people, they don't have much to do, like no jobs or like no other like interesting things to do, but they are on the internet, and if they have access, they want to do something, they build, they learn. So people tend to be very much more techie there. That's what they have access to, and they fully utilize it. Yeah, but yeah, I'm coming back. I'm coming
so
back to
tell
the
me.
international community actually.
Okay, but when we last spoke, it was basically my agency is growing. It's becoming crazy. I need to focus on that. Tell me how that was going, where you are right now, what kind of projects are you doing? Do you have a team? Are you alone? Like what's
Yeah,
up there?
so I grew my team. The the best thing I did was hiring a really good designer, like a web designer. I worked with UI, UX designers, and I never got the result I wanted with, web design. But then I found somebody who's doing like proper, interesting, like really nice web design.
Can you explain to me what do you see? Like what is the difference?
We
Because UX UI is kind of like a very broad term, which I don't really like. I like either product designer or a web designer or a brand designer or something
True.
like this. But what do you mean I hired a UX UI designer?
What you just mentioned, you also mentioned it before on Twitter. I've seen like talking about it briefly, and I 100% agree with you. Like UI, UX are really broad. Like, what is UX to me? I might get some hate for this, but it's just common sense. Like, you could say UX is common sense. Like, if you are building a good UX, you're
I tend to agree.
making something that most people can use, and that is common sense. Of course, you can be creative, you
Yeah,
can.
there are some there. Yeah, something there are some maybe best practices or research based heuristics in terms of what is easier for people to understand and because maybe it's not common sense for everybody, but the
Yeah,
idea is, yeah, I do agree that a lot of things are common
yeah,
sense. A lot of things you don't have to be a UX genius when somebody presents a design is like, I don't know where to click.
thank you. Yeah,
So
for these things, it's like, what's the purpose of this? Why did you make it this way? That, to me, that level is falls under the category of common sense and not like a UX. You need like proper UX and UI research and like go on a full rant with like with multiple versions and everything when you're creating spatial computing, if you're working at Apple. But for a flower shop that is like a local shop, you do not need to go on a UX research. And that's what I've seen. Trying to build, a website for a local flower shop and talking about, let's do UX analysis and competitor research. That is rather not needed, I would say. And it overcomplicates things and doesn't allow to focus on the more important things. A website on that level needs to be just simple, minimal. To me, it's actually just common sense. Like the template you see on Shopify or Webflow for a shop, it doesn't need a full UX research. And
yeah, uh, I would say that competitor analysis again is not necessarily part of what I would call UX. For me, this is sometimes even comes back to branding. I mean, if whatever, if in your market everybody looks a certain way and you look completely different to the point where you don't even look like your industry, that's weird. If you pick exactly the same color and font or image as your main competitor, that might look weird. Again, I don't think it has to do anything with UX. I think it's like it's part of the purpose of design is to differentiate and make sure that you're standing out in a way. So it is, but to me, competitive research is like a 1 hour exercise where I do a couple of screenshots and put them on the sides just to make sure
Yeah.
you don't look exactly like them,
Or
right?
like user journey for most websites. When we are talking about websites, user
Yeah, I
journey
agree.
is rather very simple. You want to be very clear about what you're selling and what you want the user to do. It's not that they have a web app to go through like multiple pathways to do settings and build something. No, it's like you want them to buy something from you, an idea basically. um
I think the mix up with people is that they call everything that's in the browser website. So Google is a website, but that's not true because Google is an app. Your calendar is an app. Your Gmail is an app. And they do have kind of like user
exactly.
flows and user journeys, and they're way more complicated than a website. Even the Apple website is just a website and does not require, it's an e-commerce
Yeah,
website.
that's my point. Like with websites,
So what happened for you is that you hired kind of like a product designer or UX UI designer for web design projects, and that didn't
yeah,
work
it's
out.
like making things way too complex or asking questions that don't make sense to me and then coming up with something that is, let's say, not really beautiful and not call it ugly, but um, but having like a web designer, somebody who designs like beautiful websites, you can always, change it and like turn it up and down with like how creative you want the layout to be, how beautiful or how simple you want it to be. But it's still a website. It's like landing pages, that like normal, I would say, website design that we see, like anything that is linear all the way to, linear.app all the way to apple.com or, webflow.com. These, I would say, creative, beautiful websites, but they are also nothing too crazy like those on awards. So when I say like creative layouts, I don't necessarily mean award websites, even though we have worked on some of websites on that level too. But yeah, a lot of people mix these
So
things.
do you have like a full-time team working with you, and like what's the
Freelancers,
what's the
just like
structure like?
how we were working, yeah, with
Freelancers.
each other.
Yeah.
They are freelancers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
collaborations.
exactly.
Yeah.
I have like 6 or 7 people working on a daily basis with me. We are operating almost completely on Discord, and I want to make a video
Are
about it.
they based in Iran or
Based on
not?
everywhere. They are based on everywhere.
Never.
And we're operating on Discord just because I want to make a video about it. I think it's very interesting. We have a virtual office space that is open. Like agencies have an office and employees go there 3-4 days a week.
This is so, I don't even, I'm like, I'm way too old for this. I want to say this is so Gen Z. I don't even remember how old you are. If you're that much younger than me, I'm like, these kids
Yeah,
work
true.
on Discord. Even Slack is too old for them.
It's like I tweeted this a while ago. It's truly like the closest to metaverse for us. So we have Discord open, right? And there we have different channels where you can join in and you're just sitting there and you can mute and deafen yourself. So nobody can hear you. You don't hear anybody. You're in the, you're working on a project and you don't want to be disrupted. Very similar to an open office where, a colleague is there and like
You put
headphones on,
headphones
but
on.
you
Yeah.
can see their screen.
But otherwise, if you're not muted, it's audio on. Everybody can just chat all day
Yes.
long and put music and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
So we have like a few different channels. We are not overcomplicating things, keeping it very minimal with a strict minimal for Discord. Okay. And so some teammates, they collaborate with each other that way. So it's no meeting, basically. We have very little meetings set on calendar. We are basically showing up every day. It's that. It's like we are showing up on Discord every
But you
day.
have the same hours.
No,
You're on an
we don't.
kind of like shared time
Yeah,
zone.
we
And
have shared time zones. Some people are also, night owls, and some others wake up early, but it works. Like we know who's up and they show up. Of course, if there are things that has to be set, we set them in calendar. Still a big fan of this. I love, putting everything in my calendar. I basically operate on a daily basis, based on my calendar. But the pieces where I'm working or collaborating with my teammates, we are not like putting set meetings for everything. We are just showing up in our workspace, which is Discord, and we can be in different rooms with different teammates and talk different things. So if I look, like earlier, I looked, two of my teammates were there. One of them was sharing screen, and I could see that they are talking about Lottie files and making animations. So there is no complex ways of meeting, basically. I know like Zoom is not complex, but Discord is just a few clicks less, because you can just go there and click and just join somebody and start talking.
so let's say so two things, quick questions about this. This is fascinating to me because that's really interesting. Number one, not everybody, if I understood the model, so they're not full-time employees. They're like, contractors. Some of them join these projects and some of them are not. So they're not always either the same team, or not always everybody is involved. Yeah. So do people know like who's working on what right now? And then the other thing is, sometimes we're there together and then we can just share a screen. But what happens if we're not there and I need you? Do I leave you a message? Yeah. Do I like, do I send you a Loom? Like, how do I not get lost track on what's going on?
For tracking, and
or do you have separate channels per project or something like that?
Yes, we have separate projects per channel, per teammates who need to be there, right? We also have Notion, very sophisticated Notion. We use Notion for project management. Discord is for communication. Discord is just for...
Okay, so it does not replace
not at all. No, we have Notion in place. We make documentations for clients. We put tasks there, assign people, all that project management and SOPs that can exist in Notion. We have that. Discord, we communicate in it. And Loom, I use Loom every single day. Like I record several videos, and that is to basically most of the time give feedback and articulate something in a video, because it's much easier than a meeting. If I do it in a meeting, maybe I have to repeat myself. They have to ask a question. It takes much longer. In Loom, I do something that could be a 1-hour meeting. I do it in 10 minutes. And with the new Loom updates, you can actually have tasks. I don't know if you've seen it or not. They use...
Oh, really? I've not seen that. I have the new one, but I haven't seen it.
Well, it's an add-on you have to buy, but then you have AI to summarize everything and add tasks based on what you say in the video.
Oh, nice.
So they see actually in the...
do they send the tasks to Notion, or now I have to do project management in Loom as well?
I'm setting up... This is very new, and we are figuring this out. Someone in my team is taking on project management tasks, and we are trying to give him also the Loom, and so he can put the tasks in Notion. But for now, when I share a feedback or like ask for tasks to be done, my teammates, they just go through the videos and they note down what they need to do, and they just do it. That's what they most of the time do.
I have to say, your setup eventually is not super different from what we're doing. I mean, we work with emails, then we have the chat, and then we have, I guess, we're sending Looms. So right now, I'll give you an example. Right now, we're working on a new website for Flux. So we have a space in the chat for everybody that's involved, the designer, developer, actually a couple of designers, our marketing person. So everybody's involved there. But then, and then we do project management in Coda, which is very much like Notion. But then the designer works in Figma. So we start commenting in Figma and adding stuff over there. And then developer works on Webflow. We leave comments over there. It becomes really overwhelming to manage. I haven't figured it out.
Same.
It's kind of like you need to be on top of it.
We have this issue as well. Like I try to not leave comments on Notion, for example. So we leave Notion to be clean and not comment there. But on Figma, most of the time clients leave comments on Figma. But when we launch the project, we use markup. And so the client actually...
Yeah, I just discovered markup like 2 weeks ago, actually, which is really interesting product.
It's a very interesting product. But yeah.
What do you think? So here's number one, Webflow are now also doing Webflow commenting. So possibly it can replace for me right now, the only upside is that with the markup, the clients don't need to have a Webflow account and go into your designer. But I'm pretty sure that Webflow are going to solve that soon. The other thing is, if you're using markup to get comments on Webflow, you can also share, I guess, the Figma designs over there.
Not really.
And then have only comments in one place.
Not really, because the Figma design, we do design as well. So the Figma comments are regarding the design and the iteration of the design or whatever that is. The Webflow comments, the problem is they are in the editor. So if you have custom code, they can't see it. If you are commenting on a specific blog post, it happened like 2 days ago for us, you don't see which specific blog post the comment was left on. Maybe feedback for Webflow team if somebody is watching. And regarding what you said, like
everybody, the whole Webflow team listens to this podcast every week.
And regarding the clients not needing a Webflow account, I believe they have solved this. I read one of their blog posts and they mentioned it, that the client doesn't need to have a Webflow account. A very strange thing I noticed, I was looking at my workspace settings and I noticed you can add 10 commentators. But why 10? I don't know. Whatever, Webflow is doing that. But for me, the biggest issue is the client needs to see the website, the current version of the site with all the codes running. And that is, to this day, only possible to do in tools like markup.
Publish.
So we have to do this. Yeah.
Good point. Okay. Tell me about your product. Is that part of the product you're working on? Is that part of the agency? Is the agency team working on it? Is it separate? How are you thinking about it? What is the product?
So it began actually more than a year ago when we were working on the Webflow masterclass, and we were working on the checklist and all the quality issues that come with a Webflow project. It's really difficult to create a really complex project and basically make sure that everything is correct. There are so many, literally hundreds of things that you have to make sure that you are doing correctly. Everything from setting the site language, the language code, all the way to minify the code. And then how about the CMS fields? Are they named correctly? Is there help text for the client to understand what's up?
So it is like
a checklist
and super power audit panel from Webflow. Like your audit panel is nearly not enough.
Exactly.
Let's add 100 more things over there.
Literally. So we took the audit panel from Webflow and we just basically added everything that needs to be there. And we made a Chrome extension. We haven't launched yet. I don't know, maybe by the time this podcast is out, we have. But we put everything in that Chrome extension. And the idea is you open it in Webflow. While you're in Webflow, we also show some indicators, like how many tasks have you done, how many do you have left, just to make sure that you basically check everything. It's a checklist. It's a glorified checklist, but that's one part of the product. And that's like one of the issues that I have. It's like, you have too many ideas and you want to execute on them. And so the product is not actually just a checklist. The checklist is just a part of the product. So I don't know if you're familiar with the FinSuite extension. You open it and then there are multiple things you can do with it, and they are all separate things. So we also do this. Last year, when I had the initial ideas and sketching things, I added comments. But then I noticed in a screenshot somewhere tweeted by Webflow that they were adding comments. So I was like, let's not add this. But now that comments are out, even before they were out, but we know they are coming, I had a meeting with my developer and I was like, let's see how they do it. Maybe we can even utilize Webflow comments if they don't do it enough, and we just integrate it with our solution. So I haven't executed on that idea. I don't know yet, but like one of the idea is to have like markup with Webflow comments all in the same place in like flowing. So you open a tab, you see all the comments, we tap to Webflow comments, we include these, but also let clients from outside, from the publish side, comment. That's like simple to build as a web app. It's something standard. They comment on it, and then we also show those in the tool. So if they have Webflow account or they don't, it's basically gathering everything and putting it in one place. And the whole idea of flowing is to streamline it, to help you. If you were able to create a website with 10 broken things, we want to help you to create something more complex without any of these broken things. So we have much more ideas. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. That's my classic podcasting style. I always interrupt. I wanted to ask, are you doing this to make money? Are you going to sell this, or are you doing this as a free resource?
It's a freemium. It will be a freemium. The funny thing is on the pricing. So if you log in, I know it's not published yet, but right now for, our internal use, when you install the extension and you log in, and in the pricing tab, it says, enjoy your free ride until we figure out our pricing. I have no idea. So this is my first product.
But I want to ask you about this. Yeah, I want to ask you about this because you've mentioned with the Persian course, it's great, but the market is not as big. But now you're doing a product which is also, you might say, to not a huge audience, right? It's Webflow users who are doing complex builds, I guess.
Not really. It's actually for everybody.
How do you think about the business?
Yeah,
everybody.
If you are building with Webflow, you need this. We are like with the checklist. One of the things that is holding me off from publishing is figuring out this thing. Like the checklist, if you write a comprehensive checklist for every possible solution, it's like thousands of items you have to check. But most websites don't have all that level of complexity. So this is like where you need UX, where you need like different UIs to compare them to each other. And this is what we are doing. How do you create like categorized checklists? So let's say somebody who doesn't know Webflow much, but buys a Webflow template. We want to offer them a checklist, but it's a checklist for them, something that gets them, where they want to be without making it very complex. And about the checklist, it's not just telling you, go do this. So it's very simple. It says like, this is the tasks, but then you can click on it and it opens, and you
have the UI too. Yeah.
So you have, for some of the tasks, you have my video. So I'm just like showing you, hey, here's how you do it. That's basically the idea. It's like teaching you how to do these tasks and not just telling you. but we are also targeting like everybody without the idea is we are trying to not overwhelm everyone. It's just like, what do you need if you have e-commerce?
What I wanted to ask you is, from the business perspective, is do do you think there's a big market for people paying? I assume this is a subscription or a one-time payment. I'm not sure, but there's now so many people trying to build products, templates, tools, extensions to extend Webflow. Now Framer is also pretty big. And I wonder whether, I don't really know how many of them are successful. I mean, or how many people are willing to invest in a subscription on top of the subscription of the tool itself.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I have no, the only thing, and I would love to know, what are you paying for? The only thing that at the moment that I think is worth an extra money for me is the Reloom, just because it saves me so much time. So that obviously it's a no-brainer. But other than that, I don't know. How do you feel about it?
Well, you're right. It doesn't. There are a lot of people doing this, and especially if you get into doing something, you notice even more people doing it, because this is like what you're observing. And I remember like early days, I would get panicked. I was like waking up, seeing somebody's doing something remotely close to it, and like going in full panic mode. But just soon I realized and I learned about it that this is actually a good thing. If Reloom is successful, this is a good thing that shows that the market has this need, and they are going their route with AI, and we're using it. I'm using it for all new projects that we do. We use Reloom AI site builder. But about that, and like getting more people in, I think, is like, how do you get a lot of people know about your product? And for that, I think a checklist alone is not enough. Like, it's really difficult to also get a lot of people pay attention to it and care enough, care about it, to buy it. We also have components, so that part of the extension is also done. We allow you to store your own components and reuse them, very similar to Reloom. We started working on this December last year. It's almost a year, and it shows how difficult it has been to launch. But I had the ups and downs, the stories with developers, and starting from complete scratch. But
is the developer your partner?
Yeah.
Like, you're both in it working for free at the
No,
moment?
He's not working for free. We started, I found somebody new after my first developer basically didn't continue the work. I found a new developer. I started from scratch and I started paying him. But then later on, I said, if you want to be partner, and he also showed interest. So we set up a partnership based on percentage, and also I'm still paying him, but paying him less. So his hourly hour is less, but he has a share in the product. And yeah, by now we have the checklist, we have the component library, and we are building a sharing system, so we make it super easy to share. And the idea is, I'm creating components with my team. We actually have this. We have like 50 sliders, like complex sliders that are either CMS sliders or non-CMS, but the third-party solutions. We have those in a project. We want to add them to the product and just share them with the community. The idea is to share them with the community. You see them for free. You can sign up for Flowing. You get access to the sliders. You don't have to build a complex slider from scratch ever again. Never. And the code and education, everything for it is there. It's like a very simple, straightforward copy-paste setup. That's the idea, how we get people in, but the checklist is how we help you.
So the marketing is basically part of the extension.
Exactly.
Is free and has a lot of free resources that gets you to install it, and then you can see all the added stuff to encourage you
exactly.
to upgrade.
Like, how do you tweet about something and make sure it not make sure, but like you increase your chances of getting 100K impressions. It's when you create like
I don't know. Teach me. I'm not strong on Twitter.
like I had a few tweets going viral, and most of them have been about animations and like Webflow crazy layouts and animations, and people just pay attention to that. Or that button that I made, it's a toggle, the designer developer meme. I don't know if you have seen this or not.
No, I've
It's
not.
a it's a Figma designer creating a toggle, like day and night toggle, and like adding 20 levels of shadows and just listening to music and chilling, and like designer vibe, just adding everything without ever thinking about how the hell the developer is supposed to make this. And then the second part of the meme, it's a video, it's very viral, TikTok whatever video. The developer is like sweating and crying and like trying to add like drop shadow one by one, and it's like very funny, like contrast. And I took that and I literally recreated this toggle in Webflow. I'll share you, and so you can put it on the screen.
Oh, so you referenced there was a viral TikTok or something, and you actually went ahead and did it. So a spin-off of the viral video.
Exactly. I did this in Webflow. I tweeted about it, published, and of course you can see it, or like it's linked below, whatever. And it got like over 100K impressions on Twitter and LinkedIn. And I straight got a like very good client from that toggle that I made. So the client, they booked a call with me, and I was like, how did you find out about me? You're like, that toggle you made on LinkedIn. I saw it and I thought, he knows, Webflow. So let me connect. And
he can do crazy designer stuff that doesn't make sense how to do.
So let's hire the one.
We got a crazy designer. We need a guy who can do that.
So that's how I got the project, and it ended up being a really beautiful piece of work in our portfolio. Like it's an agency based in Munich, doing design, and their portfolio is really beautiful, and we developed it in Webflow, and very proud of the work, and it just worked perfectly. So yeah, we were talking about like how you get impressions, and that's how I'm seeing flowing. That's how I'm thinking about the marketing. Put content that is either useful or like interesting, something that can get attention, and then based on that people can click and sign up. We have like over 700 people in the wait list, just because a few viral tweets I made. Viral, when I say viral, not in millions, it's like for my small account, it's viral for my level. But yeah, that's how I'm trying to get people.
So you've got your agency running, you're building your own product with Flowing, and then you've mentioned you're doing a course with Slater. Tell me about Slater, because I haven't heard about them until you told me about it. And
so Edgar Allen.
Tell me about it.
So Edgar Allen, it's a Webflow agency.
Yeah, it's an agency, right?
It's a Webflow agency. They are enterprise. They are absolutely huge. I think they have like 20, 30 people working on projects. Very talented and nice people. The founder is Mason. His name is Mason, and he's like such a nice, lovely guy. And we talked a few times, and then they come up with this product called Slater.app. It's basically, it allows you to host code for your Webflow website on their app, and they have AI next to it, so you can ask AI to write code for you, and then the code is hosted there. Because with Webflow you can do just a limited amount of characters, and it's really tedious to go, and every time you change the code you have to publish your Webflow site to see the changes. But if you host the code somewhere else, you're basically linking it to Webflow. You're just putting the code in Webflow once, and then you have a separate environment, and they have the Webflow app as well. Every time you change the code or ask AI to change the code for you, you just refresh your published site and you see the changes. So that's the idea of Slater.
Very interesting. Is this another subscription I have to pay to now?
It's free and it's premium. Exactly.
Got it. Got
Um,
it. How much does it
I
cost to
believe it's
develop websites in Webflow today? It's like $3,000 a month in subscriptions, and then
I'm
I
paying like
make
a
a
lot.
website, charge $4,000. I get 1,000 for myself,
Yeah, it's like the
3,000 for
subscriptions
the
are going
subscriptions.
crazy, like how much we are paying for every tool. But like Slater is honestly what we
No, but I do want to say again, my perspective is if it saves, I charge more than whatever $50 for an hour. So if it saves me more than a 1 hour, it's definitely worth more than $50. So
exactly.
that's a pretty simple calculation. I'm cynical about it, but I'm also like I'm the first one to pay when it saves me time. So it's just like I'm not gonna
Yeah.
waste time.
So a few use cases for Slater for one of the recent projects. We are almost done finishing this project. They have a very complex pricing. Imagine you click on different items, and then based on what is clicked, the whole pricing table, like with different data, is updated. So I had no idea how to approach this.
I have a question about the Slater app. The AI is connected to your Webflow project, meaning when I ask it, when I click on this button, it does this. Does it know the
No,
classes and it knows how to
not
refer to
yet.
it? Or
Not yet, but that's the
got
idea.
it,
That's the idea.
got it.
But
Okay,
I'm just sharing like this workflow that I'm doing with Slater.
okay. No, that was just a
So
question.
with this example that I was saying, I asked the AI, "Hey, I have this problem. How can I approach it?" It told me, "Oh, here's how you can approach it." And then I said, "Okay, these are the specific classes that I have in my Webflow account. Write the code to work." And then it gave me the code, and it worked like the first try. And it's just like a JavaScript object that I barely understand, but anywhere you want you can, it's ChatGPT 4, a GPT-4. You can ask
Yeah,
it, hey, what does it do? It tells you what it does. So the idea is to create a course for people who are like they are not JavaScript developers. They are just barely familiar with the concepts of JavaScript, but to do a lot more with AI, how to ask AI, like, and some interesting use cases, projects. So I'm listing a bunch of projects that we are thinking about, how these things are complex and how we can ask AI to write the code for us. And we have like a bunch of these because we're doing this for clients. We are increasingly doing more complex projects, partially because of AI, because we can now tell the client, instead of saying we are doing no code, we don't know how to do this, now we are like, well, we can actually figure this out. And we do this, and we say it,
yeah.
and then we ask AI, we figure it out, and we get paid for it. And it's all about,
I have to say, by the way, that I was working on a project now, and I used ChatGPT to write me custom code for Webflow, and it worked
yeah.
fantastically well. Like it wasn't very complex, but I was like, how do I do this? I exactly explained. I was like in Webflow, and it just gave me the code, explained to me what I have to change. Normal ChatGPT.
Mhm.
The code wasn't too long, so I could put it in the just custom code section, and it
Yeah,
just worked. And I was blown away. It was
it's
so
so
good.
good. So let me ask you this. Talking about ChatGPT and asking it to help you, basically. I don't know if you had this in school or not, but we had it in Iran. Teachers used to tell us there is no stupid question. Just ask whatever. Do you think there is a stupid question to be asked?
In
Like
general or for ChatGPT?
in general, like
No, of course not.
I think it's
Of course not.
but I think it's important to ask the right questions. Like knowing what questions to ask, it gets you really far. It's like you don't want to ask
Yeah, okay. So that's what people call prompt
exactly
engineering
like being
nowadays, and
an
that's
art
going to be the
director.
skill of the future, knowing how to, yeah, getting the AI to help you in the right way is about framing the question in the right way. For me, I don't know. I don't know how to say. For me, it's very intuitive, and I use ChatGPT for everything.
And there's a reason for it.
I talk to it a lot.
Yeah, because you're
Yeah.
very articulate. And this is like one of the reasons why you are very successful in what you are doing. You are a very articulate person. You can see a problem and also break it down into smaller pieces. So when talking to AI, two things I think matters a lot, especially when writing code. One is to ask AI to give you direction, or like different directions, tell you about the approaches, different approaches you can have. And then, you can ask it to ask you question, so it can give you different directions. And then you have to be really articulate about what you wanted to solve, and then it can do it for you. But it's like explaining to a blind man about an object that they cannot see, but you have to be very descriptive. And if you learn this, which you do if you just, work with ChatGPT every day, you get like crazy results.
That's interesting. I never thought about, again, this to me, this is kind of like what you said about UX. It's just common sense. So to me, explaining the problem to ChatGPT and telling him do this, to me, it's just common sense. But I'm trying to think whether what you said is right. Like, am I just like really good articulated or something like this?
You
I don't
are.
know. Before I did YouTube, I used to write a blog for a few years. And doing that and always trying to maybe re-edit or simplify my ideas in text, I think helped me to then later also, clear more or communicate more clearly on video as well. But perhaps that also serves me in, ChatGPT questions, because I don't know, maybe and maybe not.
It serves a lot being articulate.
Whatever the case is, I really believe it's a practice.
It is.
I imagine most people will become better at this as the more they do it.
we learn how to interact with this new tool. It's a tool. It allows us to do much more, much faster, but there is a learning curve still. It's similar to Photoshop or Webflow. It's a tool. It allows you to achieve something that you couldn't do before, but you have to learn about it, like how to use it. I mentioned,
by the way, talking about AI and stuff, like I've been using Midjourney, because for all of the new courses that we're doing, to get royalty-free images, I'm generating the images for the projects using Midjourney, and I've created really great stuff. And then I'm learning how I can create a consistent photography style, like art direction, so the whole photos on the website looks like one photographer did it, and so forth. So I'm really playing with this, and it's really interesting for me. There's probably a lot of people now teaching Midjourney and stuff like that, and I haven't really learned it. Every time I'm trying to Google to figure out what is possible and what I can do, but again, it's practice. But I've been able to do some really crazy stuff. Thumbnails for
I've seen some
for thumbnails. Yeah. Now I have a new thumbnail from a video from like a week or two ago, where it was the title was "I will brainwash you to be a better designer," and I had the vision that I had in my head. I don't know. Do you know the movie Clockwork Orange? Like, it's a very
really.
Okay. It's a classic movie. It's pretty hardcore, but watch it because I think it's a really good movie. A Clockwork Orange. Anyway, there's a scene in the movie where they're brainwashing like the character, and it's a very famous image where his eyes are like, hold tight to show him images when they're brainstorming, and there's stuff on his head like electrodes and stuff like that. So I wanted to do that on my face, and I basically wrote it like I don't remember. I was like futuristic brain electrodes, and then I wanted to also look like it was shot in my studio. So I was like black background, purple lighting, all of that backlight. And it gave me like crazy results. It was just like mind blowing. So yeah, I love playing
and
around with
it's
that
being
recently.
articulate.
So
You are like very exact and on point. And
yeah, but so before I went to, that's the interesting thing. Before I went to Midjourney, I was like, how do you call these things on the head? I wasn't really sure. So I was like, I started to just do Google images, like brain scan, and then try to figure, okay, so they call this brain electrodes or something like this. So at the beginning, I didn't know even how to call this. I didn't know how to frame the prompt. And just doing random stuff on Google Images and trying to figure out, oh, this looks similar. And then what's it called? And then try to figure out, okay, that's the right thing. That's the term that I need. And by doing that as kind of like a prep, I understood what I actually need to use.
That's very interesting.
So,
Like, especially because, well, your English is much, much, much better than mine, but it's still not our native.
and it's also not my
Yeah,
first language.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we're learning a bunch. I'm personally learning a lot because I ask about phrases all the time, and sometimes I know a phrase roughly, and I ask ChatGPT, "Hey, what is this phrase actually?" And it tells me. I'm like, okay, so now I can say it correctly. But it's very interesting, like where it's going with AI, and where it will be in like 2 years from now. Because last year we didn't have this. Last year we were working on. Yeah,
I'm very concerned for my kids. I'm very concerned for
yeah,
my kids, honestly. And for I'm very, it's very fun for me. For us, it's very fun. I think the next few years are going to be fun. But then long-term future for my kids, I'm pretty
what are you
concerned
concerned
about
about?
the future of relationships. I like, why would people get married and be in a relationship where they can have the perfect relationship with somebody who is not annoying, who is always making them feel good and is not arguing with them, and there's no tension?
Yeah,
And very soon, I think you can already see there's already like the first signs of it. You can have like a girlfriend, beautiful girlfriend, chatting with you and stuff like that, and it's going to become very confusing. Now we're going to have the Apple whatever thing on our
true.
face, and we're going to have things that look like people talking to us, but it's not real people. So why would I talk to my friends who
Yeah,
annoy me, or my partner who is sometimes can be tough? And why would I do that? People want the easy solution. People want, so that's concerning. Long term, that's concerning for my kids. I don't even know if we're gonna have
it's like
like
TikTok 1 million
next
times.
generation. That's concerning.
TikTok 1 million
Yeah.
times more stimulating. There was a really good
No, but it's not
podcast.
about that. TikTok, to me, TikTok is entertainment.
Yeah,
TikTok is entertainment, and that's addictive and so forth. But okay, but it's not replacing relationships. But I think that AI is going to be able to
it,
replace
have you
relationships,
seen the movie Her?
and that is, yeah,
There's a good movie called Her.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Of course, that's
yeah,
exactly that. That's
yeah.
exactly that. It's not in the future. That's now.
I
So
read about an AI like chat in Snapchat that chats with you. It's like you have like your friend list, and then there is this AI, and then you can just chat with it. And so I heard about it, and then I checked it out and started talking to it. It's so strange. It's like having somebody who's just so knowledgeable, but also talks to you in such a flattering way. It knows how to stimulate and like how to be like,
have you
it's
seen?
strange.
So I don't know if you've seen this, but there's this Snapchat influencer or YouTuber or whatever. She trained a
Yeah,
model on like 1,000 hours of video, and now she's basically selling people subscription of I will be your
yeah,
girlfriend, and they can voice chat her, and it's her voice replying in her tone or whatever, her style. And now I even saw Chris Do is doing it. He like trained the model, and people can ask the AI questions instead of him. So I guess this is what's
yeah.
happening, right? This is what people are
Believe
doing.
it or not, as we
So
are talking, my phone is charging and locked because it has to be in order to train my voice. Last night, I started training my phone with my voice. It took me 15, like 20 minutes to go through all the phrases. And now
why do you need
I
that
don't know.
though?
Like we are going that direct.
I saw this feature on the new iPhone. I'm like, why do
I
I need
don't
it?
know.
Do I need Siri to talk back to me in my
No,
voice? It's like,
that would be
what? I
strange,
don't know. What's the
but it
use
would
case?
be like the use case would be
Reply to messages
like
without me.
Siri, I can email you and Siri can read my email in Siri's voice, but what if Siri can read my email in my own voice to you?
Why why would I need
No,
to hear
no,
my
my
voice?
voice.
Anytime when I hear my
It's like
voice,
my voice, my email.
oh, when you're gonna send me a
That I think
message,
that
it's gonna come
I don't know
loaded with
if
your
that is
voice.
like that right now, but that would be the idea for me. That's the obvious next step. Whatever in how many years or month it comes, but that would be.
I had such a confusing conversation with my son the other day where, yeah, I don't know if we're how far we can talk about this without getting too much backlash, but I'll just say the the key concepts. He has a kid in his class who has two fathers, and he asked me, how can a man give birth? And I tried to explain to him that a man cannot give birth, and it's okay that this kid has two fathers. Maybe they adopted, maybe whatever. But technically, from a technical perspective, a man can give birth. And he was like, no, 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 that guy told me. And then he was like, prove it to me. Prove it to me that a man can't give birth. And all of a sudden, it's kind of like with the conspiracy theory. I now have to prove that.
Yeah.
And when I started to explain my rationale, I was like, if that was possible, then probably, they would write about this in the news, and there would be videos about this or images, and then I was like, no, wait, they can there's fake news, they can generate the images. Like, you can't believe anything you see or read or anything. You can't believe anything. So how am I going to prove it to him? So we ended up in like Descartes, I don't know anything besides that I think, therefore I am. So that's the only thing I know for sure.
True. It's truly becoming this, and with Apple Vision on our face, it's just going to multiply this by 1,000, and then what is real, what is not, the borders are, you can't say.
Okay, let me just, I want to bring you back to the question. You have your agency, you're doing your own product. Now you're possibly doing a course with Slater. How are you doing all of this? You can't say no to anything. How are you balancing them?
That is what I'm really struggling with. Like, I'm saying no to many things. Like, I'm saying no to clients. We get a lot of inquiries, even though I'm not really, actively doing marketing, but I'm saying no to those. But there are still a lot of interesting things, and especially because I'm so interested in tech, and it happens that I just say yes to too many things, and that's been a struggle. It's not a problem solved. I'm still struggling with that.
So for now, you're doing a lot.
I'm doing way too much. Are you
kind of like working so many hours?
Yeah. So I'm
not sleeping enough, and
I'm waking up.
Are you taking time off?
No, I was on vacation, I believe for 10, 12 days in Italy. It was beautiful,
nice.
Beautiful weather, the beach, everything. But I had my laptop, and sometimes I had my laptop with me on the beach, because some client work got extended, and I couldn't say, hey, okay, we're almost the launch had to be done. It was planned to be done a month ago, but it didn't because they extended the work. But now I had to go to vacation while the client work is still continuing, and I couldn't say, no, let's pause it. So I continued working on client things, but at the same time, there are some work that I truly enjoy, like the work with Flowing. Anything that we do there, it's just so much work. I enjoy it. Some work with my teammates and like some internal projects that we do, I still enjoy those. So I'm working a lot, but I wish I'm trying to be a bit more focused on fewer projects, fewer things at a time, so I can get results faster, that I can bring them to the end line, finish them, basically, and not have too many things going on at the same time and being dragged for too long. And that's what I'm struggling with. So there are good things, like we got accepted into the Webflow template marketplace. I built an entire setup with my team and a different agency to streamline the work there. But it's still, if it takes me like 1 or 2 hours not every day, but a day here and there, then it's taking me away and my attention away from something else, and it's really difficult to say no to, let's say, template marketplace from Webflow. It's a great opportunity. We got accepted. We have to push it. But at the same time, client projects that we need to push, Flowing, and a few other things that I'm doing at the same time. So it's very difficult. and a lot of work. So I'm sleeping. I wouldn't say I lack sleep. I sleep 6 to 8 hours, some days less, some days, but I get good enough sleep. But for the rest of the time, I'm working most of
How's
the
your kid?
time.
Do you hang out with your
Yeah, I
kid?
hang out, like he was with me in vacation, and he like great time. We hang
Oh,
out together.
nice.
We
Oh,
we
so
spend
fun.
time, and I bring
How old is
he's
he?
4.5, and I bring him to bed.
Nice. Great
Yeah,
age.
it's a very great age. I bring him to bed every night when he's at my place, because I'm separated. So half of the time he's at his mom's place, the other half we got this really like workout fine, like 50-50, very clean. We do that just fine. And when he's here, we hang out, I bring him to bed. He asks like very like interesting questions. Kids ask like very fascinating questions that make you think, or sometimes it's just a question about physics. And then last night I had to explain the physics of light, because he had so many questions about shadows, how they form and why they form, why they get bigger and smaller. So I had to explain all of that. You are like asking about. So there are that
See,
interesting.
life used to be simple because it was like, that's because God made it this way. So life was simple. Now we're at the complex situation where we need to explain it. And soon it's going to be simple again. It's just like, go ask the
Yeah,
AI. Leave me
yeah.
alone.
Leave me alone. You have AI on your tablet. Well, that can be really scary. Like, because on his, I got him an iPad like a month ago or so, and there is this tool that you put on the iPad, and it can see the environment in front, and then the kid can do something with hand, and then with their hand, and the iPad reacts to it. It's very interesting, but at the same time, it's a strange creature talking to my kid, educating him about like something. It's very strange, but at the same time, I have to work. I have, you know, anybody from who knows, my old video from the channel. I have my family to um, take care of, and there are like a painful amount of paperwork that we have to go through still. I don't like it's just unbelievably like high, and like just painful, like paperwork all the time, because of the situation we are in. And even after they got positive and like got accepted, they still have to go through quite a lot of paperwork. So that's how I'm spending my time. Most of the time, work, sleep where I can. Not much time, less than what I wanted to with my kid, and some time with family for most of the time, if I have to help them with paperwork, but I'm not doing it because I can't possibly do it. So we get help from others to break down the task to smaller pieces and tell us, okay, these 10 letters that you got, 5 of them goes to the lawyer, 2 of them you bring it to that place, and then this one you sign it and you send it there. And it's like everything is like just complex for somebody not German, and like yeah. But it's better. It's better than how it was a few years ago. So I'm not really complaining that it's not getting worse. It's getting better, but that's how we are moving through life right now.
Good. Good to hear. Dude, I got to wrap up, but it's been such a pleasure to catch up and hear about everything that you've been doing. Congratulations on everything that's going well, and amazing work.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you for having me. We haven't talked for a long time, and I really enjoyed talking to you. A lot of people ask me, let me just say
Same
this,
here, man.
like for the last thing. A lot of people ask me when I talk to people in the community, I go to meetings with them, I meet new people, and this, you work with Ron Segal. How is it? How is it working with him? How is it from inside? And I always like mention a few things, like you're really articulate. The meetings with you are like super short. Like I remember, like not that you cut it in half. It's like in halfway. It's that you are articulate and on point, and I remember like meetings that would take us 45 minutes, we would do it with you, and the same meeting would go about like 15 minutes and we were done. So these are like a few things I noticed. And then another that is really difficult for anybody to replicate, but I think it's a key to success, and that is hitting good enough constantly and continuously. And you've been doing this for quite a long time. And I think this is like a very unique thing. And say good enough, it's not bad. Like good enough, I mean, like you don't accept low quality, you don't accept bad work. But you are like hitting good enough. You're like not going crazy with over engineering something, like hitting it good enough, and then not just for this project, for the next one, and then the next one, like the course, the YouTube video, the website, everything is like, I would say even like a step above like good enough. But it's like, if it's good enough, hit publish, then go next and do it again, and then do it again. And I think that's, if you can do this constantly, you will be successful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's always nice to hear from somebody else's perspective. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you, my friend. All right. Love chatting with you, and I will see you hopefully very
Yeah,
soon.
see you soon. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everybody. Bye bye.
Bye, man.